All right, everyone, I'll welcome you to the June 5th, 2024 Marysville Council meeting. Call to order. We're going to start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Go ahead and do a roll call.
Mrs. Ling,
Here.
Mr. Olszewski,
Here.
Mr. McKenna,
Here.
Mr. Diakopoulos,
Here.
Mr. Lemak,
Here.
Mr. Stepanovich,
Here.
Mr. Dice, Mayor Sinan.
Get into the rest of the agenda here. We're going to start off with our libraries here for a presentation and programming update.
Hello. Hi. My name is Amy Rigner. I'm the director of the Murraysville Community Library, and I thank you all for letting us speak tonight. We wanted to talk to you about our summer reading program and the exciting events that we're going to have this summer. The theme this year is Adventure Begins at Your Library. It begins and we will have our summer reading party on August 2nd. And to learn some more about this, I'm going to introduce my staff. I have with me my children's librarian, Melanie Moore, my teen librarian, Kat Neidig, and my adult services librarian, Kelly George. So Melanie's going to come up first, and she'll tell you about the youth services program.
Hi, everyone. As Amy said, my name is Melanie Moore. I'm the children's librarian at the library. This summer, we are celebrating the theme Adventure Begins at Your Library for our summer reading program. This year, children are encouraged to join us at the library for exciting summer quests to explore their favorite books, participate in engaging library activities, and connect with fellow book lovers. The program will run from June 10th to August 2nd. Readers can register and track their reading progress using the Beanstack app. Throughout their reading journey, children will earn virtual badges and have the opportunity to win prizes. In the children's reading program, there are two age groups. The first group is the Read to Me campers, and that's infants to age 5. And they're asked to listen to 4 hours of reading over the summer, which is equivalent to about 1 picture book a day. Solo campers are those in 1st through 6th grade, and we ask them to aim to read 12 hours of reading over the summer, which sounds like a lot, but it's not. It's only about 10 minutes a day. Upon completion, all children will come to the library to pick a free book. Library summer programs this year include appearances by Orion the Amazing, the Carnegie Museum of Natural History, the Children's Institute, and Mad Science. We also value our partnerships within our community. This summer, we're collaborating with local organizations such as the Westmoreland Cleanways, True Martial Arts, the Murraysville Garden Club, the East End Kids, the Westmoreland Land Trust, and the Rewind Reuse Center. Upon reaching their summer reading goal, readers will be invited to the library's annual summer reading party, which will take place this year on Friday, August 2nd. The event will feature crafts, games, the Kona Ice Truck, and magician Steve Haberman. This is a chance to celebrate the most important part of our summer reading program. That's our readers and their summer adventures. And I'm going to turn it over now to Kat Neidig, the teen librarian.
Hello, everyone. Thank you, Melanie. Hello, I'm Kat. I'm the teen librarian at the Murraysville Community Library. As Melanie mentioned, the theme this year is Adventure Begins at Your Library. The Teen Challenge will take place fully on Beanstack this year, where you can log your reading time and earn virtual badges for prizes. Teen participants are asked to read a total of 20 hours and participate in 2 programs to complete the challenge. Programs and activities include an escape room themed like the Library of Atlantis, a behind-the-scenes look at how our local Penn Franklin newspaper is made, exploring careers in writing with technical publications professionals from Bechtel Plant Machinery, and an author talk with local teen author Abby Ramaley. Get a free plant when you come to the Plant Care for Teens program and see live animals with the Wild World of Animals. There's plenty of relaxing programs too, like our coffee and coloring program, making origami stars, and our weekly teen read-ins. The more you participate, the more tickets you can earn for the prize baskets. This year's prizes include Lego sets, posters, tickets to the Carnegie Science Center, and tickets to the 60-Minute Missions Escape Room here in Murraysville, gift cards, skincare products, and of course, books. We will be kicking things off on Monday, June 10th, with a special party at the library from 5 to 7, open to teens specifically, ages 12 to 18. Stop by the library to pick up a schedule of the summer programs and instructions on how you can participate. We hope to see all of the teens there. And now I will turn it over to Kelly so we can learn about the adult program. Thank you very much.
Hello everyone, my name is Kelly and I'm the Adult Services Librarian. So for adults who want to participate in the Summer Reading Challenge, they can sign up on Beanstack as well, or we will have a paper packet that adults can pick up and take home. Just like for the children and teens, we will have special events and speakers at the library for adults, along with activities that can be done at home. We are challenging adults to read 25 hours this summer, but even if you don't hit that 25 hours, for every hour you read and event you attend, you get another ticket for a prize basket. So I'd like to highlight a few of the programs for adults this summer. First, we begin our summer adventures right here at home with a presentation called Pennsylvania Adventures with Alan Irvine. We continue our adventure with a program called 6 Amazing Egyptian Female Rulers, presented in full Egyptian regalia by Susan Delaney. This program is family-friendly and open to all ages. And then for music lovers and fans of fantasy, we are hosting a Rock Talks event presented by Eric Sellinger. I should say that is co-hosted with the Recreation Department. It is called In the Darkest Depths of Mordor, J.R.R. Tolkien and the Music of Led Zeppelin. And finally, everyone can discover their new favorite book at the local author fair. That will be Saturday, June 29th. We will have authors of children's books, history, poetry, memoir, romance, and more. We will also have Millie's Ice Cream Truck and Crafts for Children, so it will be a fun day of literary discovery. The Murraysville Community Library is excited to host a summer reading program that is adventurous for the whole community. So with that being said, thank you to the Murraysville Community Council and community members for your time and attention this evening.
Good.
Thank you so much, ladies. Really, you guys do a fantastic job with the programs on behalf of council. We really appreciate all the hard work that you guys do every day. Okay, we're going to move on to our next topic is going to be the announcement of unlisted amendments.
There are no unlisted amendments for this evening.
All right. We'll move on to consent calendar items. The approval of the May 21st, 2024 minutes. Can I get
Motion to approve the May 21st, 2024 minutes.
I second the motion.
All right, Jamie and Carl. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, that passes. The minutes have been approved. We'll move on to comments by the mayor. Mike's going to fill in and give us those.
Sure. So we have the glass recycling pop-up event on Saturday, June 15th at Veterans Field parking lot from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. Residents are also encouraged to support the Loaves and Fishes Emergency Food Pantry by donating non-perishable food items. Food pantry volunteers will be at the pavilion accepting drive-through donations during the same hours. The Murraysville Farmers Market, which has live music, weekly food trucks, and local vendors, will run from June 6th to September 26th on Thursdays from 3 to 7 p.m. At 3235 Sardis Road, where the Murraysville Fire Company is located. The next item is the Rec Department presenting Tuesdays at Townsend. Free live performances from 6:30 to 8 p.m. on the dates listed there. June 11th, 25th, July 9th, and 23rd, and August 6th and 20th. They take place at Townsend Park. Any cancellations for events will be posted on the Facebook event page and our Murraysville website. I guess that's it for the mayor message for this evening.
Next up is comments by the chief administrator. That's you again, Mike.
Sure. Just to give a few small updates, the HVAC system for the building is slated to be hoisted on top of the building tomorrow by crane. If you recall, last meeting we were in here, it was quite hot, so we're hoping to get everything back on track and get the HVAC system up and running by the end of this week. And two other small updates. The finance department has been interviewing for a fiscal assistant position. Those interviews are underway. It looks like a lot of promising candidates have applied, so we're hoping to again, get that position filled sometime in the near future. And then the code officer position, we are finalizing the interview and hiring process there. A lot of the folks in the community have been calling. Certainly now that the weather has broken, we're in full swing here with high grass, weeds, and even signage and other things popping up in the community. So we've been trying to work on that as best we can from a staffing standpoint, but once we get this individual into place, then we'll really be able to tackle those issues. So to the residents that have been calling or are frustrated by neighboring properties or eyesores that they see in the community, we are aware of it. We hear your calls. We're getting the messages on through the website, and we are working to address them, but we will kick things into gear here, higher gear, rather soon. So those are the updates for this month's meeting.
All right, great. Thanks, Mike. I think, too, while we're here, too, for council, we'll mention the closure at School Road kind of affecting the whole community. So that goes through the end of August?
That's right. So and we mentioned it the last couple meetings. Fortunately, I think much of the community is aware it is a hassle, but School Road is closed until late August for the bridge repair replacement. They will be, I believe they are planning to reopen that toward the end of August, but the project will continue through March, so there may be other delays forthcoming. It is a PennDOT project, so we are aware of what's going on, but we don't know all the timelines. They certainly are subject to being changed, I guess. So for the time being, I believe late August is when the bridge will reopen and the detours will shut down.
Yeah, so for everyone in the community, get it in your mind that it's closed, because everyone's going to forget here these first few weeks, I'm sure. Next up, we're going to do community input. Do we have anyone signed up for that? Nobody signed up? For the good of the order, is there anyone here that would like to give community input, get up and say anything? Okay. Next, we'll have the liaison comments and committee reports. We'll start down here with Jason.
The library meets in 2 weeks, but we just heard an update from them. So
You did a great update. Thank you. Jamie?
Carl's here too.
Oh, Carl.
I was like,
I did skip right over Carl.
Medic 1 meets on Thursday, June 20th, the next meeting, and the Murraysville Parks and Recreation Foundation meets on Monday, June 17th.
Thank you, Carl. Jamie?
my turn now. So, the next Planning Commission meeting is this Tuesday, June 11th.
All right, I guess that's me. We're right down the line.
You're up.
Environmental Action Committee, we met last Tuesday, May 28th, and discussed the expansion, potential expansion of the Summer Hill project off of Logan's Ferry. Looked at some layout of the plans and the the roads and the cul-de-sacs and a big hillside that's there about water, drainage, and so forth.
Okay.
Nothing on a pension until August 8th.
Okay. For me, Parks and Recreation meets next Tuesday. Just as Mike said, we're excited to kick off the Tuesdays at Townsend. We had some really great bands, really good turnouts. We hope to invite everyone in the community. Please come out to those. They work really hard at those events, and they're really, really fun. So hope to see everyone there. We'll move on to workshop items, administration. We don't have anything. Engineering, nothing. Community development. Public Works and Parks. Next, we'll move on to our council action items. Under administration, 13A, can I get a motion?
Motion to approve ordinance number 1086-24, amending salary ordinance number 1081-23, establishing the compensation and salary ranges of the employees of the municipality of Murraysville for fiscal year 2024.
I second what she just said. I second what Jamie just said.
Okay, Jamie and Matt, thank you.
Just
Mike?
to give council a brief update, as we discussed when we advertised the ordinance, we're really only amending 3 items in this ordinance. First, the police pay rates as approved by the CBA beginning of the year. The fiscal assistant position, adding a second. And again, I mentioned earlier, looking to try to fill that position and create a succession plan in that department while also filling a need to address some of the volume of work in that office. And then lastly, a facilities maintenance position. Right now we contract a lot of the facility work out for cleaning services and some other minor maintenance, but we want to look at possibly bringing that back in-house to try to save on some cost. So that will be explored, but we need to add that item to the salary ordinance in order to consider that. So those are the 3 updates to the salary ordinance that you would be considering approval for.
All right, any questions from council on that?
No?
No.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion passes. 13B, can I get a motion?
Motion. Okay, go ahead, take a turn.
Motion to return unexpected grant funding to the PA Department of Conservation and Natural Resources in the amount of $623,000 for the Murraysville Community Park Amphitheater project.
I'll make a quick correction on there, is the unexpended, because we didn't spend it, not unexpected.
Good point.
I thought that too when I looked at it. So we had Eli and Jamie.
Yeah, I'll second.
Thank you. Mike?
Sure. So obviously this is a significant item. Judging by the motion, it's a little bit bittersweet to suggest that we might be returning funding, especially in such a large sum. So I guess I'll just start with, I'll try my best to give a succinct rundown. I certainly expect that there will be questions from council. We've talked about this at length, not only in the few years that I've been here, but even prior to. So it is quite a talked about topic. I think we're very familiar with the background, but just getting us to this point now where this motion is on the table, we do have $623,000 of grant funding, which requires an equal match of another $623,000. The project itself has had quite a few delays over the last couple years. Most recently, we were having difficulty getting an NPDES permit from the DEP. That kind of slowed things down with the project. We couldn't do some of the earthwork or some of the utility improvements at that site. We finally got DEP approval late last year, and when we did, we had to postpone the project because wintertime was hitting. As we postponed the project through the winter, we wanted to get a revised cost estimate to see what we were really looking at as we entered into the spring and contemplated moving forward with the project. The revised cost estimate that we received from our engineer put the project at a cost of over $2 million based on not only the amphitheater itself, but the adjacent parking, restroom, utility improvements, road improvements, et cetera. Obviously, that is a significant and substantial cost. Everything above the $623,000 grant funding would be coming, from our reserves. As staff took a longer and harder look at the project, we tried to find ways to maybe recalibrate, see if we could put together maybe a smaller project, try to find some way to utilize the funding, or use partial funding. And through that process and through the analysis, it became clear that the best course of action and staff's recommendation was to unfortunately consider returning the full amount of funding, not putting together a partial project, and maybe re-examining this project in the future. By returning the funding to the DCNR, we won't suffer any penalty of any sort. It won't hinder us in getting grants in the future. But what it will do is allow us the time to kind of recalibrate with the post-COVID cost increases, the overall scope of the project, and some of the work that needs to be done there. In the meantime, separate and aside from returning the funding, a lot of the work that can be done at MCP relative to this project, whether it's the roadway, some of the utility improvements, or some of the other earthwork, can still be done by our Public Works Department, and we fully anticipate doing some of that work over the course of the next year or so. But as it relates to the grant, in order to keep this grant and utilize the funding has to be utilized for recreational value. So we can't just keep the funds and put it towards road improvements, put it towards a restroom, utility, et cetera. So unfortunately, or I shouldn't say unfortunately, but the reality is much of the grant focused on the band shell itself. And without that, we don't have the recreational value component, and therefore we lack the ability to continue to use the funding. We talked about trying to shrink the size of the project, maybe doing something a little bit different, even maybe going outside of the scope of an amphitheater and looking at another type of project altogether. But because the grant was received for an amphitheater, we weren't really able to shift that into a playground or some other type of recreational amenity. So as we put all this together and examined the full scope of the project, what our capabilities are, what the limitations were, it seemed to make the most sense to consider returning the funds, reapplying at a future time, if and when that time would come, but also reevaluating the project overall. And for our part, from an internal standpoint, still continuing to allow Public Works to do some of the improvements there, to work on that entranceway, that secondary access, to work on some of the utilities, which have other benefits throughout the park, not just as it relates to an amphitheater project right off of Westertown. So that's, in many ways, a summary of it. Certainly, I can expound upon that or answer any other questions the council may have. I'm sure there are things that I didn't touch on that you may want me to address for the community or for your own edification. But that's essentially a rundown of what brought us to this point. And I guess I should say I left out that the grant expires at the end of this year, 24. We have already received 2 grant extensions, and the state has indicated to us that any additional extensions would have to be for very exceptional circumstances. They've already pushed this out. I believe we received this grant either just prior to or just after COVID. So we've had the funding in place for close to 5 years. We sought out and received additional funding, bringing us up to the full $623,000 shortly after the original tranche of funding was approved. But ultimately, we just haven't found a way to really dig in and get this project completed because the cost just kept increasing over the last several years. So being that we're on a timeline and that timeline expires at the end of this year, we don't necessarily have the capacity to really put this project into overdrive. Public Works has a number of other projects they've been working on. We're doing the rehab at Duff Park and some other locations. And I just don't know that it's fair for that department to try to bear the weight of getting this done and completed in time. And I think the most important aspect of all of this is that we don't want to do a partial project. We don't want to do something that's subpar. If we are going to do a project, especially in our community park or any other park in the community, we want to make it right, we want to get it right, and we want to do it well. And I think with the timeline restrictions, the cost overruns, and some other things, it would make the most sense at this time, and that's why staff recommends returning the funding and looking maybe down the road toward a future project. So I'm open to answering any questions. Certainly, I can answer anything that I haven't mentioned.
That was a good rundown. I mean, I'll start off. I've been involved in a lot of discussions, meetings, everything, being on the Parks and Recreation, working through the, planning of this and whatnot. And the cost just literally went out of control. I mean, it was just, so much more money in materials and labor and everything else. I hate to see it go, but I think what we're saying is it's not no, it's just not right now. I think it's the fiscally right thing to do, to do this. And that grant, Mike, just for the community too, like that was specific to, it was one project that wasn't like able to be spread out, a little bit here, a little bit there to fix stuff because, so we weren't able to kind of change it up. It would have to be all of that going to the same exact project, and it'd have to be done by the end of the year.
That's correct. If there were any way to utilize this funding to address other items in the park
Right.
or provide other
Or other
amenities,
different
we
parks.
certainly would do that. There would be no reason to turn the funds back in if we had other alternatives available to us. We're just kind of pinned down to an amphitheater. And again, that was the only item within the grant itself that carried that recreational value. So that's the key piece. And again, I think we want to refrain from engaging in a project that we can't do properly the whole way through and make sure that it fits for what our community deserves and wants. So.
Nope, thank you.
Michael, there was some discussion with respect to having a cell tower in or about the community park, and as part of that, there'd be a service road. Does this cancellation affect that service road?
No, it doesn't. So that tower, there are still questions about whether that will take place. However, if it does, as I guess the previous administration had kind of negotiated with Verizon to install this access roadway, we have two options available to us. We could still have Verizon do the roadway if and when the tower goes in and we need to have them put the roadway in. Or in the alternative, we could always just work out a monetary compensation for the tower as well. So it may be a scenario where we put the roadway in when we are prepared to do so, and then if a tower were to go in, we would just receive monetary compensation. If, on the other hand, we're still in need of a roadway and the tower goes in, then we can take the roadway in lieu of financial compensation. So one way or the other, if that tower were to take place and were to go in at MCP, we have options available to us to receive compensation from Verizon for that contract.
Another question back to the $623,000. So in the future, if we reapply, can there be a provision put in there or addendum to say we could reallocate the money for something else? Or is it only one issue?
Well, there are ways to modify the scope of a project, and you can certainly apply and add additional items in there, not just an amphitheater, but other recreational items. But in this particular case, the limiting factor was that the funding was awarded specifically based on an amphitheater. So in another scenario, another grant application, we may have multiple items that we would put in for, or we would include in one grant application. And then, if we want to kind of parse things out, that option might be available to us. But so yeah, in the future, we would look to potentially do that. In this one, we're kind of stuck because it included only that one item. And that was what the state approved. So when we asked those questions about can we use this for something else, can we shift direction, part of the difficulty we face is they approved an amphitheater for Murraysville. So now, they don't want to get into the habit of approving a grant for one item and then the community shifting gears and allocating the resources to a different item. So they're kind of stringent with regard to what the funding can be used for. So, thank you.
Michael, just for clarification, I know you've said this, and I just want to be very clear for the public. So the new estimated cost of the amphitheater came in at what exactly?
I believe, it was over $2 million. I can tell you that number.
2089, I think.
That sounds about right.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you. So just to clarify again, if the project is not completed by December 2024, we would have to return those grant monies regardless.
Yes, well,
Correct.
yeah, that's right.
Okay.
That's right.
So
It has to be completely completed.
right, so I think that this is the appropriate thing to do.
Right.
Yeah, the most recent cost estimate was 2.085 million. So
almost 2.1.
$2,085,000.
And a lot of this was just, it was completely out of the control of the municipality. I mean, it was, our Parks and Recreation Department worked so hard on getting this, and the staff and everyone in planning this whole thing for, a long time. It's been kind of in the planning stages for a decade probably, but it's, it kind of was coming to fruition, and then COVID hit, and it's like, all the materials, everything went up. So there was just a lot of factors that kind of derailed.
Yes,
all the
and
plans.
from the outset, the project, certainly there were good intentions. I think it was a great project from the outset. It was going to be kind of limited in scope. But as they built things out, recognizing the need for parking, restroom, other utility improvements to make the project work, the costs of the project grew in scope, and then in turn, post-COVID, the costs grew substantially. We did receive some funding, some small donations toward this project. We will go back to the drawing board with those groups to address where and how that funding is allocated. I know that the foundation is holding some funding, again, that was kind of earmarked for this project. Also, I think I received a question from council earlier in the day to address tonight about whether we actually are retaining whether we have the funds right now. They were never distributed, so it's not that we're actually physically returning the funds back to them. We're just essentially we're closing out the grant and not accepting the funding is a better way to, I guess, put it. But so we will address with the various groups or entities that did provide sources of funding toward this project as well, and we'll see what we can do there as far as maybe utilizing that in a different area or how we want to go about that. But the donations, while certainly valuable and assisting in the project, weren't so substantial that it's going to be problematic. Right. This is the big item here, the grant. This was the big catalyst for moving the project forward, but unfortunately, this is the situation that we're in. So.
Yep. Okay. We have our Parks and Recreation and our Public Works directors. Thank you to both of you and your teams for all the hard work you did there. It was a great idea, and hopefully we'll someday redo it again. Okay, any other questions from council? Anyone have anything?
Before you vote, I'll just add one other item to this discussion. I think it's important to note that the amphitheater, I think it originated through a previous community survey or some sort of park evaluation, and that document or that survey is a number of years old at this point. We've talked in previous meetings about revising our comprehensive plan, something that communities do every 10 years or so. And I think we're on the cusp of working toward doing a new comprehensive plan. We're going to begin that process rather soon. And so it would be my position, I think that staff would recommend that we look at revising the comprehensive plan with maybe a focus or a renewed focus on MCP and the other community parks. And by virtue of doing that, we can maybe really hone in on whether a project like this is desired by the community, whether it's warranted, whether this is the right location, whether it be at that part of the park or another part of the park or another park entirely. So I think there should be maybe a comprehensive review of the park system and the improvements we want to make to them. And I think that's coming here rather soon. And I would say that may be the catalyst to then kick off future projects, including one that may include an amphitheater like this. So like you said, it's not that we don't want to do it, but I think we should make that focus on getting our planning done and strategizing how we want our parks to evolve over the next number of years. And I think this would be a good starting point for that as we kick into that process. So again, just so the community is aware, it's not that it's just being squashed and that we don't have any future plans in mind, but we want to make sure that we get it right. If we're going to spend funds, especially significant funding, We want to make sure that we're doing projects that the community is looking for and that we're getting them done right. So,
Just have one quick
Yeah.
question. You mentioned, Mr. Nesico, the NPDES permit took some time. Do you have any indication why that took so long?
it's just a review process that the DEP goes through. I don't know specifically why it took a while. There were quite a few revisions that had to take place along the way. And every time it gets bounced back for our review and making a revision and then submitting it back to them, it just kind of pushes things, months down the road, if you will. So I can't say that I know specifically when the process started for their review, but I do know that it did take some time to get the final approval in October of '23. So even on other projects that we've seen in the community, sometimes when the DEP bounces something back for a revision or to address a concern, it takes a little bit of time for the engineers to do that, and then once you submit it, they have a period of time before they have to respond. So I think that's probably what pushed the timeline out. It was probably a few of the back and forth with revisions and addressing the concerns.
Okay. But ultimately, it was achieved. There was no problems with the actual land itself.
That's right. Yes, correct. We got the permit to do the work, but again, because it came in October, we couldn't do the work throughout the winter. So the expectation was to kind of break ground in the spring, but we wanted to make sure we had our cost structure ironed out, and that's when we did the cost revision, or the cost estimate revision, and that's when things really kind of started to show really which direction this project went. So it's, I know there was a lot of hard work and effort, put a lot of work into this, and I know prior to my time there was a great deal of effort and energy put into making sure this project moves forward. So, I think that we can look at it down the road, but right now I don't know that it makes fiscal sense, and I think we need to address,
Michael, as a question on follow-on from what Jason said, the NPDES permit, does it have a time expiration date, or is it maintained open or valid going forward?
I believe it's open for a period of time. I don't know what that is. I could certainly get that answer for you. I don't want to put our Public Works Department on the spot here, but it is open for a period of time. So it's not going to close out right away. And certainly, if we have the approvals in place now and nothing changes, we may, if it does close out, we could always reapproach the DEP to renew the permit. But I think that's probably, at this point, now that we've gotten as far as we have, and we have the plans laid out properly, either renewing or reapplying for that permit shouldn't be terribly difficult in the future if it were to lapse, because we've got everything right with the DEP so far.
All right. Any other questions from council? Okay, we'll go ahead and vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? All right, motion passes. 13C, can I get a motion?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the employment agreement between the municipality of Murraysville and the chief of police.
Second.
All right, Jason and Matt, thank you. Mike?
Sure, yes, this item and the next item on the agenda are both part of the succession plan for the police department. As council is aware, the chief will be retiring at the end of this month. The recommendation from mayor and staff is to appoint Captain Tom Kaczynski to the position of chief. This is the employment agreement between the municipality and Tom Kaczynski. It lays out the salary, benefits, and terms and conditions of employment for what would be Chief Kaczynski. Staff has reviewed it and is recommending council to approve the agreement to move the succession plan forward for both the captain and chief position.
All right. Any, I know there's been discussions with council. Any questions from anyone on this?
Nope.
Nope. All right, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? All right, motion passes. It's 13D, can I get a motion?
Motion to approve the employment agreement between Municipality of Murraysville and the police captain.
Second the motion.
All right, Jamie and Carl, Mike kind of explained, this is the same thing, only for the captains.
That's correct. So in this case, Sergeant Dave Coleman would be filling the role of police captain. Again, it's part of the succession plan. He comes highly recommended from the chief from the mayor as well. And again, as I didn't mention, but for both of these agreements, Chief Seefeld also highly recommends both of these individuals to fill these positions. So again, any questions I can answer, but this is for Sergeant Dave Coleman to receive the promotion to the rank of police captain.
All right, any questions from council on this? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. We'll move on to community development. Can I get a motion for 14A?
Motion to approve a conditional use application, CU 124. And is the G silent or not? Is it Castiglione or Castiglione? Castiglione, okay. LLC, major excavation and steep slope disturbance, approximately 48,000 cubic yards, Westertown Road and Hilty Road, 54.57 acres. Tax parcels 49, 12, 00, 0, 051, and 49, 08, 00, 012, RR zoning.
Second the motion.
All right, Carl and Jason. Mike?
Yes, this is a conditional use application. I believe the applicant is here that could potentially answer any questions from council. And this was, we held a public hearing at our last council meeting relative to this item. It did receive approval through the Planning Commission, or recommendation from the Planning Commission for approval. So we could certainly turn the floor over to the applicant if there are any questions from council.
I would request that the motion be amended, council, to add with conditions imposed by staff.
The 14 items.
Right.
Yes, yes.
So for the record, was it Carl and Jason or Jason and Carl?
Carl and Jason.
Okay. So Carl, if you can just amend that on your motion, just adding
I would amend the motion by adding the recommendations stated, items 1 through 14 in the briefing that we received.
Second.
So Carl and Jason again, just with that amended. Thank you, Wes. Would the applicant like to come forward?
Yes. Hello, I'm Brian Metzler with T3 Global Strategies, and here today to answer any questions that you have. If you'd like, we could do a full presentation, or we could just specifically answer any questions that you have on the project. So.
Just a few questions, if you don't mind. The documentation's very thorough, so thank you for that, and detailed. Would you have any comments on some of the, are you able to comment at all on some of the complaints or concerns, not complaints, from some of the residents? What your response would be? For example, the destruction of the Steels Run.
Yeah, absolutely. The project, as you know, is a single-family residential development by right in the RR district. And with that, we took extensive time meeting with the DEP, Conservation District, really all the parties involved. I forget their specific name, but the Trout Foundation and everything else. So what we have on the property is public roads where we believe is the best environmentally sensitive areas for it, and the existing streams and water courses on the site, we have riparian buffers. So we've worked through that. We're working through the DEP and Conservation District to make sure that everything, is per their standards, kind of like your park.
That's why I asked.
It's a hard process. So we are high-quality watershed, so we're with their strictest regulations. They have manuals that are over 500 pages, so we've submitted thorough calculations plans. We've been reviewed, we received some comments, and we've resubmitted. So with that, like I said, we've had the buffers, we've treated our stormwater so that it meets their quality rates, which is taking pollutants out of the water, and then also quantity rates, which is we cannot increase water on downstream properties. So that's all been reviewed and, is in the process, has not been approved yet, but, we anticipate getting that, by about this fall or so is the schedule we're looking at.
Okay. Any other concern that we hear is, would you expect any adverse effects on neighboring wells?
We do not. We've had that looked at with PA Rock and Soil, who's a geotechnical engineer, and, in their report, they've looked at it. They don't anticipate us causing any issues. They did not go to the extent of testing neighbors' wells or whatnot. I think during planning commission meetings, we volunteered, like if you get us depths and locations of your wells, we'd have that looked at in depth and added to our report. So, our intent is to make sure that we do not cause adverse impacts on our neighbors. The other thing that we've done is the surrounding neighbors, we have determined ways that we could provide them access to the public water system and sewer systems that we are putting within the development. And, part of that, our client, Paul Fishone, who is, the owner of this deal and plans to live in there, requested that, we will make the access, we'll allow it, but the owners, if they would like to connect, to try to do it before we have homes constructed on the sites. So, that utility infrastructure could be put in prior, to a new home, then tear up their yard and whatnot. So those will be shown, it's shown kind of on our subdivision plat, but we intend, once we get to the approval level with the project, to work that out legally with our, attorneys and your solicitor to make sure that everything's, defined in a legal manner.
Thank you.
And those houses or residents that are affected, it would be that you guys would bring access to that for them to tap, like they would, how does that work?
Correct. We would not put in the infrastructure. That would be their responsibility, but we would have easements shown so that they have the legal right to tie into it.
Okay.
And, I guess you'd have the other side of it. When you get a new tap on existing infrastructure, you work with the municipal authority and pay the tap and connection fees. But, we'd bring the utility and we have everything sized so that it could accommodate them.
In your marketing study, what is the anticipated lot plus home going to sell for?
That number's been increasing as everything over the years when we started this. So I think we started saying it was going to be 1.5 million or so. Lots are going to be around 250,000. And, typically a home is 4 to 5 times what the lot costs. So, we see them being 2 million plus homes. So the intent is a very nice community, well-maintained and, hopefully well thought out to sit within the surrounding community.
Thank you for answering Jason's questions. I do have a follow-up. You referenced contaminants that you would contain. What contaminants would you refer to?
So when you're doing stormwater, you always hear NPDES, which is mostly erosion control and sediment, so silt and debris that happen during construction. The contaminants that I was speaking to would be post-construction stormwater. So you might hear that a lot in your presentations. So what they look at is total suspended solids. So that's anything that gets in the water, pieces of dirt, debris. And then they look at nitrogen and phosphorus and, fertilizer and stuff get in the water. So the state has a manual that has a proven techniques that say, if you do this type of facility, it'll reduce these numbers by this amount. So we look at what a residential development is anticipated to load the stormwater with, and we put a measure that gets us clean from that. So, residential, it's mostly what people are putting on their lawns, right. Grass clippings, and then, public roads, you have cars and stuff, so you'll get, stuff that falls onto the roadway system that gets to our storm pipes, and then to our treatment facility.
I have a question. It might actually be for 14B, but since you're up,
Sure.
I'll ask it now. So the question for the entrance to the plan,
Yes.
being right across from a resident's established property there. I know that the development requires I know there's a lot of things that are in play when you're deciding where to put an entrance and an exit. But just in the good faith of being a good neighbor, is there a reason why it has to be in this particular place, that it could not be moved east or west or
Yeah,
along the road?
We have a window, and some of the first iterations of the plan had it actually further towards the park on Westertown Road, which actually aligned more with the neighbor's home. He has his home with the front porch, and it's been there forever, historic property, so we understand that. So going closer to the park, we have a water course that was delineated as, I believe it was an intermittent stream, so it has water part of the time, but we're required buffers from that. So we've moved it up Westertown to get away from that, pretty much as far as we can, to have sight distance for cars sitting on our access coming in and out of the property. So it has been looked at, most of our plans since we've been actually in the public process, we've been in the same location. We've got feedback that they don't really like the location, but it was pretty well thought out. It was also reviewed by our traffic consultant, who looked at the number of cars. So they did a traffic impact statement, looking at it, how many trips are there and where the entrance makes sense. And that was Wooster. David Wooster and Associates performed that work for us.
You also looked at the possibility of developing it so that maybe it was on Hilty Road, the entrance exit?
Yeah, we had plans. This is going way back to, we were in for a rezoning a couple years ago. And, we had a connection to Hilty and one to Westertown also. But, the traffic and the main market and window and where people in our neighborhood are going to want to go is to Westertown Road. So that makes sense to be our main entrance.
So that was the deciding factor for you, is where the people in the neighborhood would prefer it?
It was basically taking all those considerations into account. Obviously, sight distance is a safety issue, so that dictates it. The streams, there was talk at other meetings, put a bridge and cross it, but we are in that high-quality watershed. Our stormwater permit is what's considered an individual joint permit, and the joint would be the department, the DEP, and then the Corps of Engineers. So one of their number one requirements is minimizing impacts to streams. So if they see any frontage on our site that we can connect to without crossing a stream, basically have to do that, or we can't get around that minimization rule. So, it was, and unfortunately, I think the gentleman that lives there doesn't like the location, but it has been thought out and planned and, all those considerations taken into account.
Thank you.
I do have another follow-up question.
Go for it.
You're aware of the recommendations that are listed in the proposal, and you accept those?
Yes, we accept those recommendations. We've been through plan and received approval, and, we're waiting until, we get through the process to give you a clean set of everything and, have our attorney work with your solicitor and nail everything down.
Yeah, okay.
Any comments? I have discussed this with planning as well, just kind of through this whole process. I was never a fan of the entrance on Westertown. I thought an access on Hilty or I guess off maybe Farm Road there somewhere, if anything like that possible on either side of that, I thought was more feasible for that. I think the traffic on Westertown Road, we get a lot of cyclists, get a lot of walkers, we get a lot of park traffic, people coming to and from the dog park and whatnot. I think that's an issue as well, just coming off there, and that's just my opinion throughout the process. So, I appreciate the question that Jamie asked, and the neighbors want to be closer to Westertown to make a left, but that's I don't think that.
I don't know that that's necessarily safer for the
Yeah,
people that
right.
travel on that road.
That's
It might be
that's
more
what I'm-
convenient for the residents, but not for the
I agree.
pedestrian or
I think it's probably
cyclist.
less expensive and
That's,
more
I'm
convenient.
sure,
But
that's
that's
probably
not.
why it was proposed. I have no
So
doubt.
that's just my 2 cents on it.
Yeah, I agree with you.
And, one thing I would like to add, as part of the project, we do have a pedestrian connection from our public road system, down the Farm Road and then to the entrance of the park, proposed that will be put in as part of our development. I know, we don't control Eastertown Road and everything that goes on there, but that is one amenity that we are adding to keep, that pedestrian traffic off of the existing roadway. And, we have studied it, we reviewed it, we looked at the traffic accounts, and I'm not going to say, because we have development, we have homes, it will increase some traffic, but, our peak hours and everything are not, the peaks that you're seeing all the traffic at the park.
When do you see breaking ground on this if it's approved?
We would like to, this fall, going into this winter, obviously the DEP is going to be the critical path for us. We think we're on track, to get that in that timeline, but like alluded to on your previous project, depending on what they come back, their review cycles are, a month at a time. They don't work at a day or a week at a time.
Okay.
Absolutely.
I was just thinking about, you're providing a tee-in for the water. Would the economics work where residents, if they wanted to tap into that water line, work with you to enable that during the time that the water is going in? I don't know if I'm clear there. So in other words, to bring it to their house.
Bring it to the property line.
Yes.
I'm the representative of the owner,
Right.
but, it costs money to put it in for no reason. I'm sure he wouldn't want to, but, if somebody had an issue, our client is going to be a neighbor. He's not
Right.
a developer trying to come in, clear the site, put as many homes as he can, and
Understood.
move on.
What, one other question I meant that whenever I made my comments is, you had mentioned with the wells, and things like that, with disturbance, with water runoff and whatnot with those. If it impacts a neighbor of any sort, or somebody around that area, what happens there? Like, do you guys, take the cost of that on to rectify that, or bring water? or
Your
how's that work?
solicitor could probably add, but if we cause damage because of our project to a neighbor, we have to rectify that.
Yeah, it's my opinion if the development were to adversely affect one of the neighbor's wells, and that was proven, that would be something that the developer would have to rectify, which I think would result in the connection of that home to the public water system, including the payment of the tap and the expenses associated with running the lateral.
Wes, would that be the same, like if there's a steep slope of runoff in somebody's backyard, or it's pooling in somebody's backyard, who's responsible for that then?
Absolutely, Matt. That would be the same situation.
But they would have to be able to prove it,
Yeah, right.
which means they would have to have testing done at their own cost ahead of time.
Okay. Any other questions from council for this?
Yeah, it is always recommended, if I may add one thing, that any homeowner may want to get their own water tested prior to the start of the development, so they have a baseline as to both quantity and quality that can be compared at a later point in time. But I think that's advisable for the homeowner to do that at the homeowner's own initiative and expense.
Can we get a roll call vote for this one?
Yeah. Okay, can we do a roll call vote for this?
Mrs. Ling,
No.
Mr. Olszewski,
No.
Mr. McKenna,
No.
Mr. Diakopoulos,
Yes.
Mr. Lemak,
Yes.
Mr. Stepanovich,
Yes. A 3 and 3.
Mayor's not here, so we have to.
We have a coin?
Double-headed.
Just a joke.
See what they think.
McKenna, may I ask for an executive session at the request of myself and Mr. Nestico?
Yes. We're going to do a quick executive session. So Wes, why don't you explain that for me?
Yeah, I think for tonight's purposes, 14A did not pass and it was denied. However, we are missing the mayor this evening as well as Mr. Dice. So I think we should do a couple things here. If council and staff are willing, we could put 14A back on the agenda for a reconsideration at the next meeting in June. And then I think what we should probably do is for tonight's purposes, table 14B, because I don't think it makes any sense to act on B in light of the decision tonight on 14A.
I'd like to make a motion to accept what the solicitor just said.
I second it.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, so we're going to, 14A did not pass and is considered denied, but is going to be reconsidered for the next meeting, and we're also tabling 14B due to that, so, okay. All right. Move on to nothing from engineering, Public Works and Parks, nothing. Old business, nothing. New business, nothing. Executive session.
I would, pardon me, Mr. McKenna, I would just note for the record that we did hold an executive session this evening at 6:30 PM.
Yes.
And as the record would reflect, we just held an executive session.
So an executive session was held at 6:30 of council to discuss some personnel and legal matters. And then we had an executive session during the meeting due to the vote there. It's for the record. And action items, none. I guess one more motion.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All right, Jamie and Carl. All right.